Okay. The Bucyrus City Council Joint Regular Committee meetings begins at 6 p.m. here Thursday, August 3rd, 2017. Members currently present are Steve Piper, Monica Stack, Coach Truca, Dan Ross, and myself, Dan Wireable. Is there any public participation? Would the public like to speak at this time? Okay. The order of committee business is the Public Lands and Building Committee. We'll begin at 6:02. First thing on the agenda is the Pines Reservoir. Are you going to speak about this? Mayor? Sure.
The Pines Reservoir is, of course, it's not really a city reservoir any longer. It does get some, use by people that like to fish, but we're coming up to the point now where the dam is going to need some repair, and we have to kind of decide from the city's point of view, is it something that we could actually put up for sale and sell it as a beautiful reservoir with a beautiful lot. We thought we might be able to sell it and not have to maintain it any longer. And so we wanted to bring that up to, I think Jeff brought that up one other time back in January actually. And I think we have some people that are interested in buying it. So we have to decide as a council and the administration if it's something that we would entertain. If not, we're going to be, certainly putting a new dam in here in the near future.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I think that in the January meeting we had a discussion about that we were going to talk with ODNR in the county park system.
Since the county park system is interested, but they have no, it would be a donation. They have no money for it. They would maintain it, but it would be, a gratis donation. ODNR has no interest in it.
Okay. So then this evening we have a gentleman here that would like to address us. And Pat Murphy?
Well, I'd like to thank you for calling me gentleman.
I've known you a long time,
A lot
Pat.
of people normally won't call me that. As you are all aware, I'm Pat Murphy, and I've owned this property for about maybe a year. I was very interested in it. My undergrad is in forestry, and then my wife decided that she wanted to live in Crawford County, and there's absolutely really not much for me to do as a forester in Crawford County. So I went and got a law degree. But I never forget my roots, and over the years, Joyce and I have purchased a lot of properties, sort of like marginal lands. Found an 82-acre parcel, mostly river bottom, and then we bought another one, 63-acre parcel down the road. And then I was able to do a land swap with Crestline about 5 or 6 years ago, which you may or may not be aware of. The city wanted some land I had some land that they wanted. We did a swap. And I've continued on with the rest of putting all this property into conservation reserve programs and CREP programs, which I don't know if you're familiar with these programs, but they're federally funded programs, and I don't know sure what's going to happen with the Trump administration, but we have a really need to maintain our lands that's in the waterways to prevent the lake areas from getting all the phosphorus and herbicides and stuff into the water. So I've
Pat, excuse me, what was the name of this conservation that you said?
Conservation Reserve Program is through the United States Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
The people out there on Plymouth Avenue, Route 98, I do a lot with the FSA and the Conservation Reserve programs out there. We also have a CREP program. CREP's different than conservation. The Conservation Reserve Program is where you put farmland, marginal farmlands that's really erodible, highly erodible, and causes problems with drainage issues. They want you to take that out of production, and you put up trees and high grasses. And that's what I've been doing in these properties. And I brought files of all the lands I've done, and I can show you what I've done if you're interested in that. But I'm interested in maybe acquiring the reservoir property for a couple reasons. One, you guys may not know this, but if you go back in the history, this property was owned by the Kiter family, which is my great-great-grandpa was a land grant from the Civil Revolutionary War. I had a sort of an interest in trying to get some of that property back. With 640 acres out there. And I used to live right across the street from it, and I used to play in this area. So I know this area real well. I know the dam that you referred to. I think it's probably in need of repair. I don't know if it needs to be replaced. I've done some research on that too, and I know the condition of it pretty well. There's a lot. It's silted in about within 6 inches of the top of that dam now. And there's several levels. You have to deal with the Department of Natural Resources, Division of Water, the chief of that, and I think it's a Class 3 dam because it's more than 25 feet high from the river bottom. It probably has 266 acres of acre feet water is what they call it. And that could be exempted from formal construction. I mean, they have to have inspections, and I've done research on that. I've been in contact with CTL Engineering myself. I know some of the guys down there that could review this for me if I acquired the property. I think I could probably do it cheaper and more economical if I was a privately owned person as a governmental entity. And I can show you that stuff on there as well. But what I would like to do with the property, I've been toying around with the idea of this. I'm 62 and I can do something different than practice law. I've been doing that for 38 years. And I've been toying around with an outdoor association, hunting, fishing, that type of thing. And this property is prime for that. This property is not prime for development. I know some of you might be concerned that a buyer gets it and makes a subdivision out of it. It'd be cost prohibitive. Has anybody walked this property? I walked it on New Year's Day this year. And it's got 3 permanent tree stands in it. People are using it as their own private hunting area already. The people behind on Occidental Road, they have sheds and everything else back in their property. They're using it for firewood. The pines are really deplorable. I have a report here from the ODNR directly to the city of Bucyrus, dated March 23, 2005, by Joe Popery, who's then was the forester of this area. I know Joe personally. He was saying in 2005, you got a problem with your plantation out there. The trees are dying really bad. They need to be thinned out or taken down and replanted. And I walked it, it's worse now. Probably no manageable timber there, but he suggests replanting with red pine, and I don't know about red pine, but I would think about that. And also, there are various hardwoods. And I'm thinking tulip poplar. He likes tulip poplar, and also some oak, because oak is a wildlife magnet for deer. Bur oak is great, and red oak produces acorns that the deer love. And I planted a lot of the trees. Joyce and I have planted in these other programs over 50,000 trees ourselves personally. And it's sort of a hobby with me. And I plant trees based on the soil stratifications and the hydrology that's there, what tree will survive. And then what I like to do is explore the possibility of making a better fishery. Right now, the average depth is 7 feet deep. It was originally about 16 feet deep at the deepest spot. It's probably silted in quite a bit. I don't know what Timken's put into it over all these years. Like right now, largemouth, channel cat, bullheads, crappie, bluegills, sunfish, and saugeye are probably the best fisheries that they can put in there. You can't get the deep water fishes. But I'm not sure if there's any. I'd have to do some studies on that. And I do this stuff for a hobby. That's why I wanted to bring some of the other pictures and stuff that I have with you. Right now, you have a bunch of garbage out there. I think it's a haven for people to go out and shoot up with heroin. I think it's something that the government, like you guys, probably can't handle as well as a private person can. I was probably form an LLC and have memberships. I try to seek somebody in the local area to become a member. That would be sort of the monitor of the property. Yeah, someone local would have a vested interest in the property already living there. I think so. I like to try to do. But it'd have to be an economical thing for me to make it go so I can maintain it. But I'm surely not going to develop it into a if I were to be glad the opportunity to get it. I surely would not develop into a subdivision. For one, I don't think Bucyrus will support that. We have already prime lots right next to the golf course. You know, right next to J.R. Jennings' property used to be Val Castings or Joe Foley's. Right next to, well, Brett Baker bought that one house out there, and who else was out there? Dave Alk. There's lots right there with sewer and water, beautiful, and it's not being sold. So I don't know how you could actually produce this into a subdivision. There's no sewage out there. You got city water out there, but you guys control that. So I would like to, you know, I would never develop it into a subdivision. What I propose is doing some land swaps again. If you're interested, I was talking to the prosecutor solicitor here sometime back. I have a property right across the street from, right next to the square. That would be a good property for the city to put an exercise facility in. If you're interested in something like that, I'd be willing to facilitate that kind of a structure. The building structure is sound. All you know is the house furniture or furniture house that Miss Truca used to run. It's got a brand new standing seam roof on it, brand new gutters and downspouts. Structurally sound building, it just needs to be spruced up. I'll be willing to consider swapping that, maybe doing something else as well. I understand that you're not wanting to sell your property in Mary Street. I would be not out. I would consider maybe working that into the deal, but this way the city gets something. You get an influx of money, and you get a building that you can either sell that's marketable, or you can use for purposes of exercise for the city, all city employees, maybe the kids. And I get something that I can work on and actually bring more possibly bring more revenue back to this county by having a group. I bought the Lost Creek Church. I don't know, is anybody familiar with the Lost Creek Church? That is on Biddle Road. The reason I bring that up is because that would be a heck of a clubhouse for the association. I'm thinking of putting that into the LLC as well. It's just sitting there. It was built in 1905, and it's a nice apartment in the basement. It's really going to be turned into a clubhouse. I would think about going into this. And then I would approach, and actually been talking with Paul Piper about possibly getting some hunting rights leased off of his property, which is contiguous to my property, and doing some other land as well. But I'd like to make it into a hunting, fishing club, maybe open it up to organizations that want to rent it for a week or two, a weekend. You know, together we healed, together we hurt, together we heal, or might want to put a campground out there or camp out for a weekend, or some other organization. It's a beautiful property, should be used. But you got garbage sitting out there. You got, I think a mattress is out there right now. It's just not very. You got a lot of dead trees that are dangerous. They're falling down. And Joe Poopery in 2005 made some mentions of that. I don't know if you want to see any of that stuff. I also have pictures on my cell phone. I was going to bring my laptop here, but I had issues come up. I could get it done. What I did in the city of Crestline property, to give you an idea of what I like to do. The city of Crestline swapped some land for me, and what I did is this organization came to me and we worked out a deal. The Eagle Squadron Radio Controlled Aircraft Flying Club now runs that property for me. And if I can walk around and show you some of the things, I'm turning this in, if I can get this thing to work. I can show you what they put a gate on. A part of the deal is they maintain the property for me. They pay the taxes, and they put a gate up there. It's a gated thing, and then I have a combination. And you can see where the entrance is all woods. And this is my doing. And I thin the trees, work with the USDA, Department of Agriculture, on this. But then I'll go back to this. And then it goes on back. It's really along the road. They maintain that road for me. Road puts up into a field. They have cautionary little aircraft flies. Then they have a little pavilion out there, and you can see where they have all the remote control airplanes, they have competitions and they have rallies and they have, in the fall, and now it's becoming like, people are coming all over the country to this rally. They have a 3-day weekend thing, and it's really turned into something good for the kids. And it's usually, and I'm also keeping the trees.
Okay, Pat, over there, show it to those council members. Steve, you want to move down a little bit, please?
This is where this is what I'm doing with the Crestline property. They have remote control little places. This is the field that opens up. And this goes back, this is the field, and they have a sign there, watch out for the little, and here's the woods that I'm working on in that property. And it's just, I like giving something back to the society in which I live in. And this is the entranceway, it's a long driveway. And in front of it, they put this gate up. Come fly with us, Secret Squadron. It's a club for kids and people who like remote controls and that type of thing. It's just a good family thing, and it's also good because it brings people down. People buy food, and they, trickle down effect of the economy. And if you want to see the plantations I've done, for $50,000, I have walnut plantations, I have tulip poplar plantations, and white pine and spruce, and a lot of black walnut, butternut, white walnut. We have Dawn Redwood. Dawn Redwood was indigenous to this area. It's the redwood trees out in California. And I was just out in the redwood forest like 3 days ago. When I'm a little unorganized, I was going to show you pictures of what I planted. That's what I planted. I don't think you guys will buy that. So my view is you can give this land to the Crawford County Park Association. I know Josh Dyer real well. He runs it. And Josh and I used to coach Josh. He's a good guy. They do his best, but I don't think they have the funds to really work on it. And I would try to market this as a club that would be something that would be fun to work on. And I think it'd be productive. And you guys can get some money in your pocket rather than just give it away. You get a building for sure. You can use that or you can sell it. It's marketable. And I don't know what that would bring, but I think they have to have some good value to it. And if we just spruce it up a little bit on the outside and the inside, wouldn't take much. Keep it open. You'd have a nice facility for the city to use or not. So that's my bid. That's what I'm telling you. I would be interested to talk to you guys. One thing I would really have to make sure is one thing that really concerns me in my research. I'm talking about section 152106. And you have administrative code under 150121, this dam. That may be a big problem. I think I need to get I would like to get an engineer out there, my private, and just a guy to take a look at it and see what he thinks. I personally don't think it's going to be hard to fix. But I think you guys might be under different rules and regulations than I would be. So, any questions?
I know it does need some attention. There's rebar showing. Yeah, I think there might be a different level of hoops that we have to jump through.
I can show you this, but I see you got a lot on your agenda. This is the deal I did with Crestline, actually supposed to be. And as part of the deal, their ordinance says I'm allowed to hunt, even though that's inside their city. But as long as it's pursuant to the Department of Natural Resources regulations, Division of Wildlife, but no high-powered rifles. That would be good for rabbits and deer and stuff. And what I want to do there is also, I'm toying around with the idea of putting it into a wetland bank. If you guys know what a wetland bank is. A wetland bank is where people can contract, or say Columbus, Ohio, going to put a big subdivision in, or a mall, and they got 3 acres of wetlands. Well, they have a problem. They can come to me and buy 3 acres worth of wetlands, and there's different stratifications of wetlands. There's some really high. You probably know some of this stuff. Some of it's just marginal wetlands, some of it's high performance wetlands. And depending on what the Ohio EPA and the federal EPA says, they can come to me and say, buy 6 acres in Mervis property. I put in a 10 acre or 6 acre pond, 4 or 5 feet deep. I sell them an easement in perpetuity, but I still own the land and I can use it for duck hunting. I can use it that way. And that's sort of something I'm pointing out. They pay like $20,000 to $25,000 an acre for that. So that's what I would do with Crestline. Here, in the pines, I would just clean it up, try to reforest it, try to work, manage the forest story there. Keep it looking nice. There's some nice trees, but there's not a lot of harvesting trees. There's no veneer trees on this property. Some trees with big, you know, you might get some timber out of it, but it would destroy the value of the property. And it's really not marketable. There's 6 miles of coastline because it goes in and out, and a lot of it's wet. There's no way to put a road around this either for a subdivision. So I would like to turn it, maybe I toyed around the idea of exploring how some of these, you see some catfish ponds. That's a marketable, that's a thing that could bring some revenue in as well. And we need hotels, people come to use this stuff. So. Any questions?
I guess one question I would ask, what all now drains into that? If you looked at, I know one's ever addressed that with us.
Well, there are 10 acres you guys own on the south side of 30.
Uh-huh.
Kind of go to 330 now. Jim Sprang owns around that, farms it. There's a couple other farming entities, that LLCs that farm around it. And so there's probably some herbicides and fertilizers going into it that I couldn't stop. That's why it's probably why you guys don't use it for the drinking water, because it's really not good for much of anything, but fish can handle that to some extent. Then I think you've got some drainage enough from 30 bypass going into it. That's about it that I can think of. I don't know what Timken's doing now, but Timken's controlled by EPA. What they did 35, 40, 60 years ago, they're not doing now. And you know, that's why it was abandoned by the city as a water source. That's why Mr. Althwaite had that pond built out there. Rumor has it some of that dam was, the top of that dam was taken off. I have pictures of that too in my phone. Where you see rebar. Have you seen the pictures of the dam? Yeah. Has anybody gone out there and looked at that lately? I'll be glad to show you that too.
Yeah, we've seen the pictures of the condition of it.
One thing that's good about this, guys, is the stratifications of the dams is based on likely damage if it should fail. And loss of life and loss of buildings. Well, this is going to go into the Sandusky watershed. But right within 100 feet of the dam is another dam. If you think about it, it's Dutcher Road. And that's just as high as the dam with a pipe, so that would be a slowing agent. That's been worked on by the county, I think, or maybe the state, because they put a smaller pipe in front of the concrete. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But there's some rebar at the top of the, I think, a new cap on that dam, and maybe a wall inside it. I don't know if you guys have seen this or would you want to see it.
Yeah, I might as well see it.
You can see the rebar showing on the top of the dam. And I think the exterior walls look pretty bad, but I think the stair step is probably in pretty good shape. And this is pretty much the way it was when I used to live there as a kid. You can see the top of that's the cap of the.
Can you turn it a little bit?
There's the cap, and the cap's going here. You can see rebar showing. See the cap, and then here where the cap's going, and there's bare rebar.
Yeah, okay.
Wires going over it, so it's kind of hard to determine. See the cap, and then you have rebar here. It's exposed, and then you can see the wall. The walls of these is not very good shape. You can see how you guys need to attend to this. And if I go through here, you'll see. There's another picture of it. Better pictures of it. But you also got a lot of down trees. Needs to be thinned out and turned up. On my life iPad, I have pictures of garbage filtration and mattresses and stuff there too. Just stuff that's kind of hard for you guys to produce. And I would probably put gates up and put, association private property and then try to find ways to, I would seek funds from the federal government to replant, working with the Department of Agriculture, USDA, like I've done with these other properties, try to develop it that way. So it would be good for, I think, for good farmer use, and good not farm use, but for outdoorsman use, and you guys get something in your pocket. So I'll shut up. And
I think that just last year we had people in here that actually they fish out there all the time.
Yep.
That would those be the kind of people that you, or would you be going to them to if you're going to have fishing out there that they could continue fishing?
I don't want to be an elitist.
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't want to do that, but you also have to have some way to generate a little bit of revenue to pay for making fisheries work and to pay for the conservation reserve programs and CREP programs. The government pays me physical labor by the hour to go out and plant the trees. They reimburse me for the cost of the trees. They reimburse me for the fertilizers and the herbicides, and they pay me a sign-up bonus, and they pay me rent to rent my land. I'm getting $200 an acre on my CREP program for 15 years, and they give me a $25,000 sign-up bonus, plus pay me to do all the work. And at the end of the day, I own the trees, but I have to leave them there for 30 years. And by that time, you don't have to go harvest them in 30 years, but there'll be a good. It's for my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, with people who fish there, I'd have to figure out a way to make it accessible, but also control it. You just can't have an open gate and say anybody can go in there. If you walk it right now, you're going to see campfires. People are using it. Some of the property owners are actually mowing paths, and they have their own fire rings, personal fire rings on the shores of this property. They're just using it as though it's theirs already. And I would go to some of the people and say, yeah, I bought it. You know, if I acquired it, I'd like to. You guys continue to work with me. I don't want to just be, obstructionist or elitist. But if I start having people join an organization, or if I have pay for catfish to be
Put in
there, I have to somehow have real way to control how I get paid. You have to pay to fish, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way the world goes. I mean, it's not working right now the way it is, and I don't think the county is going to have funds to do much more with it, what you guys have been doing with it. So, and they're not going to pay you a penny. Any other questions?
Have any questions from the committee?
I have
Okay.
a comment, just whenever you're done,
Well, I'm done.
I mean, okay. Just from, I've been around this town long enough to know a few things, So, I don't know, a couple of years ago, whatever, a few years ago, we got to the point where the city was using the Riley and the Othway primarily as water supply, and you was using number 1 and number 2 as your backup, water supply, just in case of a drought and so forth, things like that. Now, a little bit of history, since I've been here long enough, that back before we had the Othway Reservoir, Paul Othway had some conversation with the company, and this is the company that had that brewery down in Columbus on 270, the Anheuser Brewery down there.
Mm-hmm.
He had that place very, very close to coming to here. They were going to build in Bucyrus, but it came down to the point our water supply wasn't quite what they needed. Well, that's when later on he pushed and we built the Othway Reservoir. So my question is, and people can consider it, is if we start selling off our water supplies, are we going to ruin our being able to sell our community for industry and so forth that needs some water for whatever they're manufacturing, Are we going to cut ourselves, down to where we can't sell ourselves to industry to come here, if we have less and less water supply? We built the big Othway Reservoir because we got turned down for somebody that needed a water supply. So, are we going to cut ourselves?
You have trouble keeping
No.
up with the water demand for the city of Bucyrus since you've had the Othway Reservoir built? I mean, that's deep.
No, I don't think we ever.
No, we've been able to more than we got 1 billion gallons out there.
That's what I'm saying. You're talking a 7-acre deep pond right now that's 33 acres, but it's 7 feet deep. And the water quality is not really marketable, well, except for maybe a commercial venture, maybe. Timken's not drawing off of it, are they?
Pardon me?
Timken, no one's using this water.
No.
Haven't they? And you got 2 other reservoirs, or 3 other reservoirs. You got the Riley, and you have
No.
the other lower line reservoir, which I don't think you use. I think that's reservoir 4.
That's enough, yeah.
And I, it would still be there. I'm not going to drain it, and if I got it, and if someone came along and wanted to put a big factory and they wanted to pay water rights, then I would probably say, okay, let's do it. I'm not going to hold back on that.
We're limited really by,
Time?
not by our water supply, but by how we can purify our water. We can purify up to 3 million gallons a day. We're currently using about 1 million, a little over that. So we've got plenty of capacity with our new water
Yeah,
plant.
the question is, if you purify $3 million at your capacity, if you ran your cleaning operation to capacity, how long will you all the way pond and the other reservoirs last?
All 3 years.
Okay, so that's-
It's not a problem.
You do have a
It
main,
may have been at one time. It's certainly not a problem today.
you do have a water line coming, that's still in place, I believe, from the reservoir 2 to towards your new water plant. I don't know if you tapped it or put it, connected it or not. But when I was a kid, I was sitting down there with my dad and old Jim Butt, and I don't know if you knew who that guy was, but he's from this area. And I was watching, I go, Dad, look, and the water was just coming up on the creek on the other side of the house across from the dam's where I was raised. And the water just coming, and I ran down there, and the water was shooting up about an artesian well for like maybe 15 feet in the air. That line broke. So that's a liability too, unless you guys cut that off. If you guys ever want, I would be glad to have you come out to, I'll drive around some of show you the trees and stuff that Joyce and I have planted. I don't want to say I did, because Joyce is right with me. To show you how I am committed to trees and wildlife. So if that would all be interested, I'll offer that to anybody who wants to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I think we've done it's a beautiful lot out there, but we've really neglected it for years and years and years. And there was some trash issues, there's some drug issues, and we're never going to use it ever for a water supply. And I think being able to turn it over to private business, private residents, I think the city could really benefit by somebody getting in there and working it and making it his own. He's got, historical connection to the land, and you've seen the work that he's done. And I was seriously consider, coming up with some kind of however you decide on the arrangement. But I think it's time to turn it over to him. It's just going downhill the way we don't pay attention to it.
But the thing is, it's water that you could use for drought time,
We'll never use
or
it.
you could use it.
No,
You can say you could never use it.
We'll never.
We will never use that water.
Well, we that's why we put 1 billion gallon. We've got some 3-year supply of water. If it doesn't rain for 3 years,
Yeah,
we've
I
still got
understand.
enough water to, and then that's if the river goes dry. We are in the top 5% of water producers in the state, and that's a good place to be in. We'll never use it.
But to be able to say you'll never need it, that's a weird thing to be able to say because of a drought. Or if some industry comes along and says, I'd like to build here, but
They're not going to use
you don't have the water.
We have 2 million gallons. There's no industry going to use 2 million gallons of water a day. I mean, it's just impossible. And if we have to expand our water plant, we can do that and still use the off weight. I mean, we could. That's what we'd have to do first.
Well, I know we're sitting pretty good, but if we start selling it off, though, what are we going to do?
Well, wasn't there any studies done before they built the oil plant? I haven't, that they studied about the idea of dredging reservoir number 2 and redoing the dam back then. And I thought that the reason they didn't do that is because it's a low-lying reservoir, which everybody's going away from, because the water control, the water quality is not controllable. People, fertilizers and Timken, don't think with the off weight, with the Riley, you guys, it's all basically rainwater. water you pump in when those herbicides or fertilizers in there, doesn't really like pump back up into it. I don't know, Dan, you know, when you keep it, you got a liability out there. This isn't just about water, but you got a liability out there too. Trees are falling down, there's trees falling down. And actually with the advent of the plight that we're getting with the various type of trees, with the elm and with the ash, the woods are a dangerous place to walk in right now. So, and I don't know what happens if that dam fails. It's not in good shape. So it's a liability. Is it worth keeping that minimal water supply for the, or what if in the future? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I was also the impression that the city was thinking about getting rid of this asset. That's why I'm here. So anybody else have any questions for me?
Thanks. I think the only thing I have to add is that I would need to see, I would like appraisals on these, you know, if we can even trade. Can we trade? Is that something?
There are some legal restrictions. You know, those would have to be worked out.
I had no problem with Crestline trading me property for property. I think it would commensurate in value. I have no idea what the value of this property is. I don't think it's marketable from a farmer standpoint, and I don't think it's marketable from a subdivision standpoint. So it would take someone who wants to use a silver, like I'm using for to be interested in it. I mean, someone might want to spend some money just to have a nice lake. But how many people have that kind of, for instance, I'm local, I'm here, you know who I am, you know what I can do, and when I set my mind out, I sort of try to get it done. I don't know what comps you would look at. How would you get that appraised?
I don't know.
There is an appraiser.
As
A while back, I looked at the county auditor's website. I can't remember exactly. It was like 1.3 or 1.6 million is what they had it valued at.
Are you guys paying? You're not paying tax on it, right?
Hope not.
See, the city of Crestline was paying tax to the. I don't know to disparage anybody, but the city of Crestline was paying tax to the county for their industrial park, like $12,000 a year. They're not supposed to be paying tax to the county. And then I had, as part of the deal, is to put that into agricultural use value before I bought it, because if I bought it, I had to wait a year. They put it in, and that's part of the deal. I said, you put it in and I buy it. And my property taxes over there now went down to like $425, because agricultural use value depends on the soil stratifications, the U.S. Geological Survey. The agricultural use value for this property, Crestline or the Pine Reservoir, is probably similar. Taxes aren't going to be too great because there's no agricultural value there, and it's not really marketable as far as construction is either. So there is an appraiser. What's the name over there again? Does commercial property. I can give you the name. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Dolan, Dave Dolan. He's certified commercial appraiser. You could have him see if people want to do the appraisal. You know, I would probably think it would not be right if you asked my daughter. Oh, I'd be happy if you would.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you want, council wants us, you know, we can try to have an appraisal. I can reach out to ODNR and ask them, maybe they had somebody that specializes in appraisals.
Just bear in mind, you guys were thinking about giving them away. I'm offering you at least a way to get some assets and some back. Is there anything else?
Thank you, Matt.
My only intention is, you know, I mean, we're elected by the city to do what's best for the citizens. So you know, so we have to look. That's the angle I'm coming from. So do we have any? Just want to table this at this point, or?
That's your committee. Who's your
Well,
committee?
if I did say it, so.
Monica and Bruce.
Well, the Keeler's not here tonight neither, so.
If you want me to come back, if you have any questions, or if
Okay.
you have, you know, well, if you get a hold of me, you know, that building might need some cosmetic work. I might be willing to contribute to something like that to make the property worth more for your usability of it. As opposed to, and then if you do swap for swap, I don't think you need to have an auction, but if you want to do it your way, that's fine too.
Thank you very much
All
for
right,
coming.
Have a good evening.
You too, Pat.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, so we'll table that for further discussion. So I guess we're moving on to Old Miller Park easement.
Yes, the easement,
Anything about that?
we need an easement for AEP to come in and replace the poles. And maybe the law director could speak to, it would be, give them the ability to come in and as the poles being replaced, which we have some in serious condition right now, to allow them to come in and do that.
Are they AEP's poles?
Yeah, they're AEP poles.
Are these the ones that go right down the middle of the?
Well, it's for any poles.
Any poles out there
In the
that-
future, so the ones that by the pavilion are the worst ones.
They're looking sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're rough.
So we're only talking about like the street light pole,
Right.
electric.
That's right. You see
We're
what-
not talking about them running some high
No. Just come in.
tension line through the
No,
middle of the
no.
park.
It's not gonna happen. Your question. No, it's just a repair. Come in to be able to repair. And
Okay. So that seems pretty self-explanatory.
which we get them in there as quick as possible.
How did they used to
That's what
do
they're
it?
waiting for.
How did we used to do it? Did we used to have to hire it done or something? I mean, hire it done like a private
Since
individual
I've been here,
before?
these are the first ones
Right.
we've replaced. I can't answer that question.
They could have been there since the 1930s.
Yeah, these could be, yeah, these are old bulls.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, would they give us some legislation done like this?
Yeah, we'd have a piece of legislation that'd specify the especially limited access, and
Yeah, that's my only.
and a description of where they're to go. I think you'll handle all that from a legal standpoint. Yeah.
Bruce.
I got one other question. When we do the lighting out here, is the lighting on a meter basis for us, or do we have to accept the American Electric Power, or we have to pay them a certain dollar amount each month for
I think it's on I
eternity?
think those are monthly. We pay them so much per month. I believe that, just like the city street lights, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's, for every pole that we have for EP is a certain amount.
I would get them on meter.
Well,
Figure out a way to get them on meter.
Pardon me?
Figure out a way to get them on meter if not.
Okay, well, they can investigate that.
right, look into that too.
Okay.
Because what they charge us, the street lighting is horrendous.
So, I guess, we give a motion, I guess, to, I'm assuming the law director will come up with some language on that.
So moved.
Can I get a second there, Bruce?
I guess. I just would like to know whether it's a possibility. That's all I mean. But there's no one else to do it, so I'll second it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna look at the legislation when it comes, if it doesn't say, and I'm sure he's gonna protect this, that's his job too, so. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. I guess with that, end the, public lands voting at 6:45.
Monica, I believe it's you. I just got a text from Bill. He was 20 minutes out 15 minutes ago. So he's on his way.
Want to just do platinum?
Well, we need him for plating,
That's it.
and we need him for health and safety. So we can do this one, okay?
I'll call the finance committee over at 6:45 p.m. control loan fund application.
I think in your packet, we have a letter from Bruce Brainstetter, our engineers, if you would like to read that, so everybody can hear it.
As part of the application process to obtain the zero interest loan funds from the OEPA, the city is required to submit a resolution authorizing the administration to do so. An example draft resolution from the OEPA is attached. It is for both water supply, blue type, and wastewater, red type. It is ultimately for planning, design, and/or construction. Mistakenly, the previous resolution prepared for City Council's consideration was based upon a water system project, not a sanitary sewer project. The terms, 0% interest, 30 to 40-year loan, have not changed. This is a very competitive program. BCI recommends approval. We apologize for the confusion on the previous resolution and thank City Council for scheduling a special meeting to address the issue.
The reason we're holding the special meeting is that the deadline is tomorrow. So it's in committee now, and then if you request legislation, we'll have a special council meeting yet this evening to approve it so that we can get the paperwork in tomorrow.
Is this part of the southern?
Yeah, right on the third
that's what
page.
it says.
Yeah, it says the project involves the separation of storm and sanitary along Southern and Hopley Avenues.
So this
The
has
project,
we've already.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
moving along,
yeah, we're just moving this one along here.
So, yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to accept this, get this resolution to them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Moving on to the various appropriations.
Yes, you've got a printout in front of you, I believe. We need an appropriation, a couple appropriations in the general fund. One in program 1, security of persons and property. In the fire department, contractual services. This is $1,000. This is for telephone bills through the rest of the year, hopefully. Then also in program 7, general government, 7780 and 7781. Category is materials and supplies, $200. This is to cover our code enforcement officer's cell phone. When we had budgeted for him at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure that we knew exactly what all was going to be entailed, and he does have his own cell phone, so we need $200 to cover those bills. Then we need appropriation in the sewage disposal fund for sewage disposal operations and maintenance, contractual services for $1,000, and that's also for the new telephone system bills. The last appropriation is derelict building liability. This is for an insurance deposit we received for property on East Warren Street of $4,666.67. And this is so that we'll be able to return those funds when the property is deemed safe. And that's all I have at this time.
So can I get a motion to approve these appropriations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. We'll adjourn finance at 6:50. Just call that in order. At 6:50. So we have the legislation for the retail and dining alcohol sales in downtown business district.
We've been through a long list. I don't think we have a...
I don't have the timeline in there.
We don't, the timeline's not in here, but you've been given the timeline previously as we did all the steps that also included the public hearing. And this is the draft legislation that we have to start with. And we've had the public hearing. It's been referred back to council. Council's referred it back again to the committee for the committee to address it. And so the committee then has to send it back to council for the final legislation to take place. So that's what we're looking for this evening, is that it be sent to council for a vote.
Any discussion? We've had lots already. Sure. You should have something to say. So then can I get a motion to send this to full council for their approval?
Second.
First by Steve, second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
That's actually two pieces of legislation. You're aware of that there are two of them there, and this is the draft will be removed, and we'll have the final copies then at the next council meeting on the 15th. Okay? And we have some paperwork that needs to be signed, okay, by two committees.
Okay, so that's all for planning, so we'll recess that at 6:53.
Health and Safety Committee order at 6:53 p.m. One other name on the agenda, and that's the ambulance contract. I believe what we were looking at is a one-year extension.
Yes, you had all received copies of that contract. I hand-delivered them all last Friday. And that's where that... I talked to your wife.
I guess I didn't talk to her.
You need to talk. Yeah, she pulled in and she looked at me funny as I was putting it, in the mailbox. So we also have an article that Zach wrote about the ambulance board itself, and you have actually copies of the actual contract. And ask you to read this and asked for a discussion of it this evening is what we were looking for.
The part you have highlighted here in the article is not correct.
Okay, which says that Kroll said the contract, Kroll, who would be the county prosecutor and who is the attorney of record for the ambulance district, said the contract can legally be extended as long as there are no major changes. He said Durbin is asked to be allowed to reduce the staff from 3 crews to 2, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., I believe that's supposed to be. And that it remains to be seen whether anyone will consider that to be a major change. It's also not clear if Durbin intends to ever reduce his staff.
Right, but from what I understand, that's not what's going on with the ambulance board, correct? Bucyrus Fire picking up third call from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay, now you're addressing this question to whom? Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Terry Lenhart. I'm part of this ongoing team.
Okay, thank you.
You're asking if this currently wants to still reduce that from 7 p to 7 a.m.
Right. I mean, I wasn't at the last ambulance board meeting, but from what I understood, basically they want a one-year extension of the contract going back the way it was. Correct? Or unless the board just does everything.
That is not what this contract says.
There's still the discussion of whether or not you'll go back from 7 p to 7 a to 2 trucks.
Right, but the contract, what was being voted on at the ambulance board was life support doing all 3 runs?
All 3 runs from 7P to 7A,
Correct.
I believe so.
Yeah.
He currently said he's gonna stay as status quo.
As status quo of right now.
Yeah, with 3 trucks, 24/7.
Right, that's
Said
what
last
I mean,
week.
yeah, 3 trucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill, you got to speak up. Can't hear you, please.
Let him have 3. The contract actually calls for 2.
Yes.
Page 4, last paragraph.
Page 4.
Right, didn't, said I wasn't at the last meeting. I thought that's what we voted on at the last meeting, was to change that back.
2 3 trucks.
Correct. Yeah.
The last paragraph on page 4, scheduling.
Right.
He's difficult to do that. It was in there to allow him to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I got a question.
Sure.
Mainly administration. Out of all this conversations going on, I have not yet heard whether the administration's agreeable to extending the contract. Are you agreeable to?
Yeah, we would be agreeable to extending the contract for 1 year for the status quo.
But are we going to back them up? Are we going to be staffed to be able to do that?
Right
Or-
now, we back them up. You know, but now, the 7P, 7A is a completely different,
But if they reduce their staff,
but they haven't reduced their staff.
well, that's another question. Are they going to? You know?
Well, that, you know, that is, you know, could be a negotiation, but I think with Mr. Durbin, I think, and Terry said it too, I think it's.
But we need to know that
Well,
before we
it's
say
the
we're
status
okay
quo.
with extending the contract.
Well, we're extending the contract, if this is a new contract, this is not a contract extension. Contract extension, I'm not a legal mind there, but I would think it extends the current signed contract that we had signed 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought the question was,
Right.
1 year extension.
Right, 1 year extension, that's what we're
Isn't that what the question is?
Well, I think my opinion would be that the source of the confusion is whether or not this is a new contract or we're talking about a 1 year extension of the prior contract. This proposed 1 year extension has numerous and significant, in my opinion, changes from the current version of the contract. Although the current version of the contract has been modified several times, this still continues to present even further modifications. So whether or not we want to extend the current existing contract for another year, or if we want to consider this agreement a new contract, or whether we want to consider this agreement to be an extension with modifications of the current existing contract, I think there are 3 different
I think
decisions.
that's not what's being answered here. Like, are we definitely going to change your staffing? And we're going to have to support that, which I don't have a problem doing all that. But we got to have these answers before we say we're going to extend the contract a year. But then some people are saying it's a new contract, or they don't know whether they're going to change their staffing of the private ambulance service. Where are these answers at? You know?
Does the current contract, the contract you have in front of you, I believe, is a current contract with modifications?
Yes.
Correct? Correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That is what the ambulance board presented.
But shouldn't we have a contract in front of us says if they're gonna change their staff and all that, if we want a 1 year extension with some modifications, where's the modifications at?
They're in here.
The-
They're in here. They're in this
They're definitely gonna
contract.
change your staffing.
They're in this
If
contract.
that's the contract with
Yes.
modifications, of going from 7P to 7A with 2 vehicles, then that would be, yes, a change.
That's if you look at page 4.
At the same time, if their workload does not warrant them to drop down, they're not going to do it.
All right, this is what I'm struggling with, because when Jamie Sure, which is the women's board president, was here last, he stood right there at the podium and said, we're looking at a 1-year extension, and it would be life support running all the calls. No help from Bucyrus Fire, even from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I spoke to him on the phone this morning and, basically reconfirmed that. And he said, yes, that is what the proposal was.
But that's not what he sent to me. This is what he sent to me.
Right, and that's why I'm asking if something changed at the last ambulance board meeting between when you got the contract and what we're talking about now.
That's what's contract.
We have to hear you, Bill.
I asked him if I think we ought to continue until we find out if there's changes and what they are.
Right, what specific changes are, that's the law record. What specific changes do you want to know?
He's got them marked.
There's several questions that I would have.
Go ahead.
On page 1, the final whereas clause notes that the district agrees in advance to modify the contract to allow the ambulance company to be able to provide service to the district without subsidy, both now and in the future. So that pre-allows modifications without any knowledge as to what those future modifications would be. There's some confusion as to the definition of peak and non-peak. As I mentioned at the bottom of page 4, the scheduling identifies that in non-peak hours that the
What number are you looking at?
This is the 5A final paragraph scheduling. Notes that the change would allow for 2 crews in non-peak hours, 7 days a week. It doesn't necessarily define what is a non-peak hour, although in other places it does talk about 7P to 7A, but it also does talk about in other places within here, there's some internal inconsistencies with whether peak and non-peak is defined as a 24-hour or a 7P to 7A 12-hour situation. Also on page 2, number 2, there's new language, the duration of this contract. Specifically, it states the contract shall remain in effect for a period of 1 year. A renewal of up to 3 years is optional if fees and terms are agreeable to all parties and the option passes by a 2/3 majority vote of the district, meaning that 2/3 majority vote of the district can bind all parties for a period of 3 years after this contract. In section 3, under status and legal relationship, it notes independent contractor relationship, which is what is usual. However, it does remove some oversight. It notes specifically the manner and method of completing the work undertaken by the ambulance company shall be determined in its sole discretion. Under section 4, laws, rules, and regulations, there's some duplicate language there regarding Title VII. Not really important to the contract other than it's just kind of duplicate language. In Chapter 5, Emergency Medical Services, it allows, it notes that the ambulance company is required to respond to all emergency calls within the district and that the ambulance company may be responding to calls in surrounding areas under provisions of any current or future mutual aid agreement. So we don't necessarily know what future mutual aid agreements they would undertake and whether or not those would draw the 3 or 2 ambulance crews outside of our district, and what notification processes may be in place to make sure that our fire department has adequate staffing. On 5A, the third paragraph, again, this is where it talks about peak and non-peak times being 7P to 7A in that paragraph, but in other places it's less clear. Again, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth, paragraph 5 under 5A staffing. Ambulance companies shall provide and maintain agreements with other. In this, I just don't understand what this says. It says the ambulance company shall maintain agreements with other providers of ambulance providers as provided by the district to answer emergency calls from the 2 ALS ambulances available solely for emergency responses in the district are committed to emergency responses or are otherwise unavailable. But again, we were talking about 3 on staffing or 2, so there's some confusion there, and then that sentence is just really not clear. It also allows the ambulance provider ostensibly to contract with other providers to provide us services, but then it indemnifies those other providers for lack of liability. The maintenance of the contract and the mutual aid agreements with both inside and outside of the district, it provides a 90-day period within the effective date of the contract to have those provided to the ambulance district. In 90 days on a 1-year contract is 1/4 of the contract. If we're extending the contract, those agreements should already be in place, and we should be, in my opinion, extending the agreements that are already in place instead of bringing in new ones. The paragraph, or page 5, ambulance personnel, last paragraph, familiarity with district, does note that there may be ambulances stationed outside the district. Currently, the requirement is that they're stationed at the old North Fire Station, and the ambulances are equipped with maps. It doesn't mention GPS or anything. And again, the map test provides, which is the qualification for drivers in that. Mr. Ross probably knows more. But again, it provides for a 90-day period for the effectiveness of that. Talking about 1/4 into a 1-year contract again. And if we're continuing a contract that's already in place, then we should be just moving forward those. Response times. This is similar to our current contract, but I did have a question regarding that. On page 7, Article 7, subsection A, the district, this is with respect to response times and when or whether or not the ambulance company is meeting its standards for response times. It is the district's discretion to determine whether or not a failure to meet the response times rises to the level of non-performance of the contract. However, as 80% of the calls, as they say, are within the city of Bucyrus, the determination as to whether or not response times within the city of Bucyrus are subject to a 16-member board, of which we're only 1 member. Forfeiture, again, giving 90 days for the page 9, section 8, giving 90 days again for copies of disaster planning and disaster aid agreements. That's 1/4 of the contract. We should be continuing the ones that are already in place. On that same page, number 13, a copy of the ambulance company's performance bond. Prior contract required a performance bond. Modifications to that contract allow them to exempt themselves from the performance bond, which conflicts then with page 10, which does require a new performance bond, this time for $100,000, which is higher than it was previously, but again, giving 90 days to meet that performance bond standard. Previously they were required, then they were exempted from it, now we're requiring it again, but we're giving them time to pass. Not relevant necessarily to the continuation, but on page 12 there's a paragraph about allowing the ambulance company to conduct annual ambulance membership programs. While it's a zero subsidy contract, this does allow them to solicit individual memberships. I'm not sure if that's... and again, page 13, subsection 12, requires them to respond from a base within the city of Bucyrus. However, the kind of conflicts with the other paragraph, which says they may respond from outside the city. The termination clause is kind of a continuation. It is a little bit different, though. It does, with respect to the 30-day period for termination, it does allow for a notice of termination to be cured, and which is fine, but it's there in that way. And it does limit some of the ways in which the contract can be terminated. Page 16, the second paragraph, under mutual aid, again, 2 crews available during non-peak hours. I think there's some confusion with respect to what is peak and non-peak, because in certain points it talks about 7P to 7A. Other parts it talks about 24-hour crews. It also notes the ambulance company, word company is missing there, but may have ongoing agreements with fire departments within the district as approved by the district to provide ambulance service when the 2 remaining crews are unavailable. So again, are those mutual aid, or are they subcontractors? If they're subcontractors, there's issues with respect to how that language is done. But the exclusivity in section 17 on page 15. Again, the ambulance company is the sole entity authorized, with the exception of third-party approved delegation, during off-peak hours to provide emergency medical services. So if there's not an approved third party, someone providing medical services that's not an approved third party may violate this agreement from our behalf. If we're responding and we're not that approved third party by the district, we may be violating this agreement by sending our ambulance to our residents. Those are just some of the highlights. I didn't have a lot of time to dig through it real deep, but just some of the highlights on that.
Mr. Ratliff, who wrote that contract?
I don't know. This is the one that was sent to me today. This is, I think, the 3rd version of a contract I've seen in recent months. There's been some 3 years. There's been some 1 years. There's been some back and forth with subcontracts. So I'm not sure. I don't know where it originated. I just know this is the one I got a couple days ago.
Well, like what you've spent on for the last 5 minutes, do you think it's crystal clear and well written?
Well, I wouldn't make that judgment. I would just say I have those certain questions. With any document, you ask 100 attorneys, you'll get 200 opinions. So, those are just my opinions and my questions based on my kind of cursory read earlier today.
You think it's something ought to be straightened out? We just ought to rubber stamp it.
Well, like I said, that's your decision. Those are the questions I
Well,
I
just
have.
ask you.
Well, those are questions I'd like to have answered, but it's not up to me. Those are just questions I would want to answer.
All right, so the Cliff Notes version, you want peak and non-peak hours defined throughout the contract?
Well, I think we should define peak and non-peak. I think we need to clarify the 3 crews versus 2 crews. I think we need to clarify, in essence, I think the most important thing is I think we need to clarify whether or not we're continuing the contract that already exists, with those modifications that were made during the term of that contract, which are written, or are we adopting essentially, I would consider this a new agreement, a completely new agreement. That would be my personal opinion, but I think we need to clarify: are we continuing the contract that was previously in place with the modifications that were granted, or are we adopting what I think is a new agreement, or is this agreement purportedly the old contract with those modifications? And if so, then I think there are some discrepancies between what is in here and what is the old contract with modifications. Does that make sense?
Somewhat, yeah.
Question?
Sure, go ahead. Just speak.
Maybe, Mr. Adams, maybe you help me. If the private service is part of this, is going to be reducing their staff about 12 hours a day. Is that right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this certainly authorizes them to do so.
So again, we don't know if they're going to do that.
No.
I thought that was part of what this was all going to be, but again, if they do that, or there's been so much talk of them doing that, why is it in here if we're going to vote on something, a contract possible extension? It's got to be yes or no in there, you know.
It
before we take a vote on here, you know.
This agreement certainly authorizes them to go to 2, if they want. I think the only question I have with respect to that is the times that they can go to 2 limited to 7P to 7A, 7 days a week, or are there other times that can be defined as non-peak that would also allow them to go to 2? And I don't know that that's 100% clear, but certainly this agreement would allow them to go to 2.
But I would think even the administration would want to know if this contract, the possible changes, whatever in it, if we say, okay, we approve that and the townships do too, well, if the agreement is you're not going to change your staffing, then you're not going to change your staffing. Or are you going to change your staffing? And are we going to be backing it up? That should be answered before we pass this thing or vote on it. Are we going to back it up? And any of the runs we make to back them up, are we going to get the finances from the charges for the run?
There's no provisions within that agreement other than the agreement allows the ambulance company to 90 days in most of the places throughout here to work out those agreements.
But are they going to reduce it or not reduce it?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, see, how can we vote on something when nobody even knows the answers? Have you guys had any conversations?
Well, this is a new contract, you know.
I know.
I was assuming that when they said a one-year extension, it was a 1-year extension of the existing contract.
Even in the newspaper from July 28th, when they had a board meeting, that was one of the conversations, you know, was who was going to be, you know, the township trustees said, our guys will only cover the city, not the township. Are we going to answer these before we vote on something?
Well, yeah, this is just a start of a conversation. This is in no way the end of the conversation, but you got to begin the conversation at some point in time. I think one of the big things that we happen to be missing here is we have a current agreement for this that has been modified, and the modifications have been made by the administration. And until we know what modifications have already been made, we don't know how different this is from that agreement. So we need to see what has already been agreed to as a modification to the original contract.
Right.
So we have to get that from the administration. Okay.
Or get what I came from the Indians for. It's going to come from both sides, not just one.
the ambulance board would be the source of that contract with all the attached modifications.
Okay, you have that contract?
He should have it, Milt should have it.
Milt? Okay.
And Matt.
That should have.
We will go after it.
So can I, Terry, if I can ask you a question? When you guys voted to extend the contract for 1 year, were you thinking you were extending the current contract with the modifications, or were you extending this new contract? And if this is a new proposal that was sent out after you actually voted on the extension, did you guys know this was coming?
Well, originally they wanted to vote it on to do a 3-year renewal.
Right.
And then it was discussed to do just a 1-year renewal to see how this was all going to work for all parties involved.
So when you say a renewal, though, was a renewal of the existing?
Renewal with the modification.
So a renewal with these modifications here. And since these modifications are new, you guys didn't really vote on these.
Do you have to go?
No, it's just
Not with a technical
Those were voted on.
There's no modifications to the contract that were voted at the ambulance.
They've all been voted on.
I got something.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm just sitting here listening to Rob talk, and I'm thinking, okay, Matt's over there, and obviously Mr. Durbin has a lawyer, but you guys ever talk to each other and say, hey, and I'm not being sarcastic,
No,
I'm just saying.
no, and it's a valid question. Excuse me, it's a valid question. We can, but I don't know that it would alleviate the confusion, because and again, only from my perspective, I think we have. I don't know if we have a clear, defined goal and plan yet from any entity. As Mr. Leonard was, not to put words in his mouth, but I think, whether it's 2 or 3, I'm not even sure if he knows definitively what it's definitively going to be. I know I don't. I don't know if anybody does. So I think somebody, those decisions have to be decided, and then we can put it all into place. Put agreements into place. But
I mean, don't you get together like if it was a divorce, the husband and the wife, and and they get together and they say, I want this, I want that, I want that. I mean,
and we can.
That? Wouldn't that make sense?
We can.
I don't know.
We can, but it would not be. I think it would be improper for me to advocate for what I want in this agreement. What would be appropriate would be for me to advocate for what this body and the administration wants in this agreement. And if we define, if you define we want X, Y, and Z, then I think it becomes my role to go and meet and get X, Y, and Z done and put in there. I can certainly go and negotiate a contract.
I don't know. It just seems like.
But I don't have. But I have to have those. The contract I bring back to you may not be what you want either, because whatever my agenda might be, may not be the same as what,
Well, I mean,
what
I
your
think
agenda is.
I think we just wanted a 1-year extension of the old contract.
Right.
If there's so many conversations too, excuse me, but
Go ahead.
there's so many conversations too that say there will be no major changes, but you read so many different things in there. What do you call major changes or not major changes? I would say you should extend the contract and there shouldn't be any changes, technically. Or somehow, you know, maybe not so much the law director's conversation, but the administration, specifically service director, should be knowing, are you gonna have ambulance staffing the same as you got now? Or are you gonna change it 2 days after you sign this, and then we gotta back all that up? Are we gonna get the money for those runs that we're making? You know, I mean, and I don't think the guys with the fire department even have a problem doing those runs and everything, but you wanna know it before you sign a contract, you know, or we vote for it or whatever. We wanna extend a contract, but nobody out of this conversation can tell us really definitely what this thing's gonna say. It could change when the townships vote on it, maybe. I don't know. When the whole joint district votes on it. It sounds like it can.
I don't think anything's gonna happen tonight.
No.
Well,
Go ahead.
I agree it's not, but I hope before we meet next time, we need to let somebody know what we want.
Correct.
So that's you.
Right. I mean, go to the ambulance board, can Bill pick up a copy of the contract from 3 years ago, unedited? And then we can compare it to what we have now. Because
Knowledge is
because
some contract, just.
right, because I'm not so sure that a lot of what everyone's calling changes are actually changes from what was already there. Right, I don't believe they are either. So, I mean, that's what I said, you know, give me the Cliff Notes version. And that seems to be the peak and non-peak hours thing, which if they go away from dropping down to 2 crews from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., that's not going to be an issue anyhow. Because you're not going to need to know what peak or non-peak hours are, because the only reason they wanted that defined is when they could go from 3 crews to 2. So if they go back to 3, that's a non-issue. That's why early on, I was like confused on what was going on with the contract extension, if it was going to be the agreement we had where we picked up the 3rd run, or if it was going back to let's support just doing all 3.
Well, and from a contractual standpoint as well, I mean, that's why this document creates some confusion. If the intent is to merely extend the prior contract for 1 year, then that's simply an agreement that says we agree to extend that contract for 1 year.
Right.
And everybody signs off on it, and that's, you know, that's all there is. And it extends the contract that's in place for a year. So that makes a lot of this surplusage at that point in time. So, you know, if that's our goal and that's all we want, then that's a very, very simple thing to do.
Right. So, right, we need to hammer out the peak and non-peak hours, mutual aid agreements.
Well, and those things would already be in place from the current contract. If we're extending the current contract for 1 year, then those things are already part of that current contract. Those things are already in
Right,
place.
because to the best of my knowledge, mutual aid agreements aren't anything new in the contract. They've always,
That's why I say
it's always been.
What's new is the fact that this contract now allows for new mutual aid agreements and a 90-day period to get those in place. Extending the old contract extends the ones that are already in place.
Do we have any new mutual aid agreements?
Well, you wouldn't under the terms of this contract because they're given the 90-day period to determine those. So there wouldn't be any new attachments.
Language from the original contract.
Right.
Still, mutual aid agreements.
Right, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't throw a contract under a microscope, but I think a lot of what's being argued here is stuff that's been in the contract since inception.
And those things are fine, but the question is, are you extending the old contract or are you creating a new contract with new terms?
Right.
And there's different requirements for each of those depending on which way you do it. This one I think has some new terms in it. If our intent is to create a just a one-year extension of the previously existing contract, then, in my opinion, none of this is necessary. All you need is an agreement that we agree to extend the old contract for 1 year.
Copy of the contract from 3 years ago.
And say we're extending this for 1 year, and we all sign it, and well, you guys all sign it, and it's done. And then it doesn't create the confusion that this brings into it in a lot of different ways, with the peak, non-peak, the 7P to 7A, the 1, 3, 2, different mutual aids, who's billing, who's in charge, all that sort of stuff.
All right. So the people that need to get the shovels out will start digging. Fair enough. And then we will discuss this 2 weeks from now. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Public participation? No? All right. I will ask for a motion to adjourn the joint regular committee meeting.
Okay.
Who's that?
We are adjourned at 7:31.
Okay, we have a council meeting to do now. Okay, you ready to go? A special meeting of Bucyrus City Council for August the 3rd, 2017 is called to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
McKeever. Ross.
Here.
Wireball.
Here.
Truca.
Here.
Sack. O'Rourke.
Here.
Piper.
Here.
This is a time where we grant permission for our visitors to speak. Does anyone care to address council at this time? No one? For consideration of proposed legislation for the first time.
Resolution number 224, 2017, a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and enter into a Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, or WPCLF, agreement on behalf of the City of Bucyrus for planning, design, and/or construction of water facilities, and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan and declaring an emergency. This is referred back to Finance.
Okay, I need a motion to accept this as a first reading. Motion by Mr. Pfeiffer, second by Mr. O'Rourke to accept this as a first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passed. This gets referred back to Finance Committee. We have public participation again. Any member of the general public may present their input or comments on legislation that has been read for the first time. Anyone to address council this evening about this? No one? Committee reports. Finance Committee?
Before we go on, any discussion from Finance? Finance is favorable to Resolution 224-2017, Water Pollution Control Loan Fund application.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Second? Wireball?
Yeah.
Motion by Ms. Sachs, second by Mr. Wireball to accept the report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passed. For further consideration of pending legislation, for the second and third readings of proposed ordinance number 224-2017, do I hear a motion to suspend the rules, waive the reading of the caption and text, and declare it an emergency?
So moved.
Second. Wireball.
Yes.
Truca.
Yes.
Sack.
Yes.
O'Rourke.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McKeever. Ross.
Yes.
Resolution number 224, 2017.
Do I hear a motion to adopt proposed ordinance number 224-2017?
So moved.
Second.
Piper.
Yes.
Sack.
Yes.
O'Rourke.
Yes.
McKeever. Ross.
Yes.
Wireball.
Yes.
Trucca.
Yes.
Ordinance number 224-2017 is duly adopted. Thank you very much. We need to have a motion to excuse Mr. McKeever.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Sachs, second by Mr. Trucca to excuse Mr. McKeever from tonight's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wireball, second by Ms. Sack to adjourn